So welcome. I'm here still with Ian. We're still discussing things that are going on in the residential situation as far as BPF are concerned. So Ian, welcome and thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure, Peter. Glad to be able to join you this afternoon.
And looking forward purely to the residential non-student market, we've noticed an awful lot of landlords where basically this is now the final straw on top of everything that government's been throwing at them over the last few years now, and there's an awful lot of them are basically just giving up now. So there's going to be there's going to be less landlords, I feel, going forward. Whether or not that means there's less rental properties remains to be seen, because quite often where the smaller landlords have got one or two properties are getting out in the market, it tends to be that other landlords are buying those properties. But we wait to see. It's going to be, this next year is going to be very interesting all in all, honestly.
Yeah, we submitted evidence to the Housing Communities and Local Government Select Committee last week on their inquiry into the private rented sector, and the thing that I wanted to articulate was actually, there's a lot of, I think, good practice being seen in the private rented sector. There's not, you'll get the odd story of sort of scandal of people being forced out of their homes at this time, but generally I think that private rented landlords have been acting, I think, very responsibly, going above and beyond, and that applies across the whole sector in terms of supporting their tenants, signposting them to government schemes where they can get help. You hear of tales of landlords dropping in on their tenant, not physically, but checking that they're okay, making sure they've got shopping where they're elderly and perhaps isolating and things like that. So there are a lot of good news stories out there that I've certainly been very keen to articulate, and I'm sure you're all the same.
Yes. Well, I mean, we've got a new, hopefully temporary section on the website for coronavirus advice, and we've got a section on there for tenants. So, pointing them where they can get benefits and help and the like. Because, the one thing we're saying to our landlords is, if your tenant says, I'm going to stop paying rent because of, quote, coronavirus, well, that on its own is unacceptable. You need to have the conversation to say, what are you doing to try and mitigate the circumstances, but then have a proper conversation. Unfortunately, it's too many. The government seem to have given the indication to tenants that, you just have a 3-month rent holiday. Well, that's fine if landlords could have a 3-month mortgage waived and the council tax waived and all the bills waived. That's fine, but life isn't like that, is it? So
no, and you won't find, I don't think, many landlords in our membership who are who have a blanket policy. Clearly, each individual circumstance is different, and they will treat individuals, and there will be understandably some inquiry as to why you need assistance. I think that the huge thing that's supported people paying their rent has been furloughing, and therefore a significant interest of ours is how furloughing will evolve, because the crunch point may come towards the end of June when furloughing is scheduled to finish, and people then will find whether their employers are going to continue to support them or the government is going to continue to support them or not. Clearly, if all the strain's taken up by housing benefit, then that is, I think, going to be extremely challenging. Certainly we're making representations in other organisations to turn furloughing into some sort of back to work scheme. So the economy is sort of weaned off it slowly rather than having a hard backstop on the 30th of June.
Yeah, because the landlords in general are in a peculiar position that they totally rely on their rent for their income, because they normally fall outside all the government schemes. They can't get furloughed. Normally they don't have businesses, and normally they're not self-employed, so they can't take advantage of that either. So They're very often, they may or may not get universal credit, which is doubtful. So we are on at them to have that negotiation with the tenant and make sure they do continue to be paid.
And the only support so far has been obviously the support in terms of mortgage providers, but not every landlord has a mortgage. And
no, a surprising number don't.
Yeah,
surprising number don't. So, and the ones that are struggling, the ones that have got are very heavily geared, they're always on the sort of cusp of going over. And Richard Bowser from Property Investor News was always saying, always have a plan B, don't get overstretched, etc., etc. They're the people now that are going to go under, which may or may not be a bad thing. So we wait to see. And Ian, thank you for all of that. We will continue this on other videos. So see you in other videos, and bye for now.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, take care.
Okay.